Hello. Welcome to Toward a Quality of Life. And we are here all together for a cosmic powwow in the studio at BNN TV, Boston, Massachusetts. And I'm very happy to have the people with me here today that took the trouble to come out. Why don't we go around and everyone say his or her name, starting with
Tonika,
Jamal,
John,
James,
Nancy,
Leo,
David,
Kwana.
And the reason we're convened here today is to hear from, I'm reluctant to use the term young people. I mean, these people here are younger than I am, and they may be as old or younger than you who's out there watching. But the reason we want to be convening and talking is that I'd like to know, and I think it would be good for all of us to talk about and good for us to hear, what people in this generation are facing in going through their lives, you know, trying to make it, trying to make something of themselves, trying to get by, and I'd like to point out that it must be a very different kind of life to be living today than one that I was accustomed to, because as life gets faster and more hectic and more stressful, what each generation experiences has got to be different from what those who have come before them have felt, such that we almost might not even be able to communicate to each other very well. So I'm going to start off the conversation with throwing out some questions for the people around me, and let us see you know, what our lives are all about. First of all, I think I'd like to start with the concept of stress, and if any of you feels that he or she has stress in his or her life.
Yes.
That's something.
Very much so.
Leo, can you say something about that?
not at this time. Let me see.
Well,
Not
I
at
mean,
this
there's
time.
stress regardless, whether it's bad stress or good stress, de-stress or eustress. So you have to have stress in your life to maintain and live, so whether it's good or bad.
So you're talking about the distinction between there being a kind of stress that gives you a motivation to move forward,
Right.
and then the kind of stress that can just be a catastrophe where you can't move forward.
True.
How about, well, what do you experience both kinds of stress?
Yeah, very much so.
Okay, could you give an example of each one?
I'll start with bad stress. Like during the school year, I go to school, which is very competitive and challenging academically, as well as I maintain a job. You know, like parents always say, well, you don't have to pay bills and da-da-da, but you gotta maintain good grades so you go to college, plus have some money, you know, get a job so you have money to spend on the weekends, because your parents not gonna give you money just to buy a new pair of sneakers or, you know, throw it away. So that's a stress for me, and good stress, just stress in general.
Could I ask you where you work?
Right now,
Or where you've worked?
right now I work for Boston Public Facilities Department as a summer intern, as well as I work for Colonel Daniel Boys and Girls Club, and I'm doing memberships there, as well as I'm doing a volunteer internship over the summer at Somerville Courthouse.
So you're pretty busy.
Yeah, in the summertime, but during the school year, last school year, for instance, I attend a all-girls Catholic school, which is very competitive. It's college prep, as well as I was working as a peer leader at Blackstone Community Center, and that alone is a lot.
Sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
That's good, you know, to see you know, young females, you know, going out there, going to school and doing the right thing, because I know a lot of sisters from the hood and where I grew up, you know, they always into, you know, drugs, making money, all kind of crazy things. So I'm kind of happy to see that this sister right here is doing the right thing, and let her be an example towards other sisters that may feel the same way that she feel, you know. Just want to say that and say I'm proud to hear that.
Thank you.
You know,
Definitely.
John, do you think it's any different for girls than for boys?
Any different? Oh yeah, it's a lot.
What's the
What's the difference? Well, What do you mean the difference
Like-
falls in what?
Well, because you're bringing out the fact of females. You know, you're happy to see that you said a lot of females are into other kinds of things that aren't, you know, very useful, you know, for them to be into. But they're in. You mentioned females, but is that any more than the males or any different than males?
I would say anymore? Nah.
You said
Well,
I was
well,
females.
I'd say there's plenty more stress on the female because if you think about it, the way society and its culture is, the way they view and treat women. I mean, women were not expected. 30 years ago, a woman wasn't expected to hold a job.
Right.
And I mean, you look today, you got women doing everything. You know what I'm saying? And then statistics are starting to show that women can do things better than men. And they're like,
Right.
there's a lot of things. Yeah.
Right.
And there's another thing. A lot of women have to deal with stress because they got to put up with men. Not saying, well, you know, they got. That's one stress.
What's the main thing when you got to put up with a man?
A lot of things.
You asking from a man's point of view?
Yeah,
or-
From a man's point
You
of view,
mentioned
I
it,
wouldn't
yeah.
really know, but I hear this from a lot of people. But I mean, just a lot of things that I hear from people. I mean, see, a lot of girls I know have fallen into like alcoholism, drugs, like he says, and you know, it's just, I guess they break under stress. I mean, stress can either make you or break you, and you have to determine what it's going to do to you. You're one or the other.
I would say that it's equal in some sense. Far as I look at it biblically, far as in the man of the household and that he's in control. Far as in control in the sense of going out there working, taking care of the bills while the woman stays home and take care of the children. And that I would say, I'm not saying that it's good to be that way, but I'm saying in my household, that's how it is in my household. You know, my father's out there working, you know, bringing in the bills for the family, and while my mom stays home and take care of the children and feed them. And that's stressful too, that she has to be home and kind of has no personal life for her to go out there and do things on her own. So I say it's stressful in that category. But then there's other categories that you can get into. But I was basically coming from the biblical, as far as in that category as a man, you know, being in the household, and a woman, you know, being in the household, taking care of the children and doing those things and
I
etc.
could also see how you say that.
That's all I was saying.
I mean, a lot of men encounter stress because they can't deal with their pride. You know what I mean? A lot of, like, that's the reason why a lot of the wars were started. Like, you know, men couldn't sit down and talk about their differences, which really what started wars. And that way, you know, that was a lot of stress that built up with wars or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And that man mentality, I gotta support my family, I gotta support my kids, I gotta be a good father, I gotta be a good man to my wife. And you know what I mean? And that it's just that can also bring along a lot of stress onto the man.
Yeah.
You know, David, you mentioned about drugs, alcoholism, as did people on this side of the circle, and why don't we get that right on the table right now? Why do people, in your opinion, turn to drugs? What?
Either it's peer pressure or rebellion, I feel.
Or the subject we just left, stress. There's needs to be some outlet. A lot of people turn to alcohol because, you know, they basically, if you look at the traditional alcoholic, they come in from work, from being stressed, and the first thing they do is grab a drink. And, you know, I mean, that's an outlet for some people. Drugs, especially like the, you know, what we call the major drugs, crack, cocaine. Even now there's a new one on, you know, diesel. And that's, you know, that's very addictive for young people. But
What is it?
diesel, from what I know, is I think a combination of coke and heroin, I believe.
Oh, I heard about that.
Yeah, it's what you call it. It's called a few things, but it's highly addictive, and you know, it's the new thing. Well, it's actually not that new, but a lot of young people within our age category are starting to really get addicted to it, to the point where it's an everyday, almost every hour type habit. If they don't have it, they get to itching and withdrawals and all that stuff. I mean,
Do you see people walking around needing drugs?
In one of
that
our
you can tell?
largest housing development communities, I mean, you can ride down the street and you can just, you know, you can basically tell. You can't tell whether they're on crack or diesel, but you can basically tell, you know, if they're on something. But I mean, a lot of the reasons that people get on drugs is, like he said, stress there's some form, they need an outlet, you know what I'm saying? That feeling that takes them up here, even though they don't realize when they go up here, they still got to come back down and they still have to deal with reality. But stress, I wouldn't even say rebellion. I would say the stress of rebellion, because when you rebel, there's stress with that. But why do young people rebel? You know, that could bring up a whole nother subject. But I mean, it could be stress, rebellion, and peer pressure, and just the point of experimentation and curiosity sometimes can get people familiar with drugs. Your environment could be quite a few things.
Hey James, I want to say this. I look at it as when people, when they get stressed out and they go to they go to drugs and alcohol, or because they lost a job, or something, a big tragedy in the family happened or something like. You know, especially people who are not saved, they go to those drugs because that's their God. See, there's a reason why they go to the alcohol and the cocaine, because they feel though that, you know, okay, I want to feel relaxed, or I want to feel.
They do need to relax. People need to.
But see, most people, they need to learn how to. They need to go to Jesus and let Him relax you. You see what I'm saying? Let Him. He's the man. You go to Him and you say, hey, look, you know, I'm going through this, and I'm gonna have faith and believe that you're gonna take control on what's going on right now in my life. Because see, I always look at it like this: if you know God, right? If He knows your lifeline, if He knows your lifeline of where you're gonna be from this second, or just to say the future. You know what I'm saying? If you already know that, why try to, you know, react something differently if God already knows it's going to be planned for you? You see what I'm saying?
What about those young people that don't, and not to knock what you're saying, what about the young people that don't, you know, that were not raised in church, that were, and it doesn't so much have to be, a lot of us, we ourselves, I'll speak for myself, and John, you automatically heard of some other young people here, we believe in Christ and God, but there are other people that believe in other religions and, you know, other different beliefs, but at least they have that outlet, you know, being affiliated with whether you're Muslim, Pentecostal, Jehovah's Witness, Buddhist, whatever. There's some sort of outlet. There's something, a higher hope. And, you know, a lot of reason people go to drugs, if that's what we were talking about, is they feel hopeless. There's no hope. They feel that there's no other way out except being on that pipe, smoking that blunt, sipping that beer or whatever. I mean, not to say I'm perfect. I mean, I'll tell you in a minute. You know, none of us.
None of
I'm
us
not
is perfect.
None
of us alive is perfect. None of us.
I mean, but there are a lot of people who are, I would say, so-called saved, who go out there and they go drink and they say, well, Jesus drunk wine, and then they go smoking some marijuana. Oh, they gave Jesus gall.
What I want to say about the whole wine piece, the whole wine piece, it was cherries. It was blue, like not cherries, but like these little blueberries. And what they did is they took them off and they crushed them. They crushed them and they made it into juice.
But he has a point about being
But let me say something here.
Wine from water that was.
Personally, you know, not everybody can feel God. Number one, and like you say, there is such a thing as an hypocrisy too of praying to God yet not really being close to God. You know, so my point of view is I'm very secular. I'm into people being able to do whatever they do and choosing what they do on their own strengths of making cultures where not to defy, you're certainly not it in my opinion in this life. You know, I don't know why I'm here and I don't know what is after here or before here, and I know I'm not it, that much I know, but how can we do something where we ourselves can become so strong that we do the right thing just because it's the right thing to do? You know, because we know there's a right and we know there's a wrong. Like there's sort of in us, built in a thing that some things are better than other things.
I can really say it's wrong.
How can you say what's wrong?
Really say what's wrong?
Most of the time when you based on if you think about it, most of the time when you based on what's right and what's wrong, it's based on the law. And then if you look at the origination of the law, a lot of our forefathers, where did they take their laws from?
Right, but let's say we have someone who's very into drugs or alcohol and they're pretty deteriorated.
Right.
If you said to them, you know, by magic, I could make you not want to do drugs and alcohol, we could erase all this, you'd have a job. They can't do that, but in theory they would say, yeah, I'd rather do that. You know, I can't help but do what I'm doing.
But it's not magic.
Yeah.
We probably need to wrap this part up. It's not magic. But I come from the belief, especially recently, I mean, I was raised in church and you know, you prayed and that was it. But there's maintenance after you go through a personal
personal experience like that, it's not just somebody prays for you or you pray and that desire is taken away. There's maintenance. I believe you can still be saved and still go to detox. You know, you need that maintenance, but I understand what you're saying about a secular point of view, detox being
In other words, that we would do the right thing not even because of a religion, you know, just because we would treat each other with respect.
Look at society's morals and values. That's why.
Can I say this though?
Back to Leo.
I mean, not that we're going to do it overnight.
You say doing the right thing, right? Okay, say for instance, on the way we perceive things as human beings as doing the right thing, far as okay, we would think the right thing, okay, go to school, get good grades, go to college, you know,
Get married,
and,
have children.
Get married, have children, whatever.
Retire.
But before even people even get married, or let's say, you know, we perceive them as doing the right thing as far as in doing the school and all of this other stuff. But say for instance that person's gay, and that person goes off, you know what I'm saying, sexually involved with another man, and it's a man and a man. I mean, you mean to tell me that that's right? You know what I'm saying?
No, and that's.
I mean, even though that's right, but I'm saying God created a woman and a man was here first on this earth, and a woman was created out of the rib of the man.
It depends on the person. But see, you can't really say what's right or wrong.
But see,
I mean,
let's take
I understand you.
religious-
That's your belief, though. You know what I'm saying? But you can't say that it's right. You can say it's right or wrong for yourself, but you can't talk to somebody else and judge someone else if you're going by the Bible.
I'm not judging.
I know, I understand, but that's your opinion. It depends
Back
on
to
the
Leo,
person.
what Leo said, how are we to judge what's wrong? I mean, what we see from right or wrong is what was taught to us.
Thank you.
From society and
But see,
environment.
who said society's doing the right thing? All this
Who says
stuff we think is the right
Who
thing
says
could be the wrong
society is
thing.
right in the first place?
I don't
Okay.
think nobody
Exactly what
too
I'm
just
saying.
how about this say I want to take drugs. But if they stressed out and all this,
There's
what other
an outlet.
alternatives are there right at that time?
I mean, there's
so much
nobody
they
who
consider
says, I want to be
just
happy when I grow up.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. And it's
Yeah.
a different kind of morality. We'll hold aside sexual orientation because that's not the same kind of morality
It's a whole nother story.
as not hurting somebody, not walking up to somebody and
That's more
hitting them
about
over a
preference
head.
and choice.
Whole other kind of morality. That, you know, the kind I'm first of all talking about is just sort of being a good human
I hear
being.
you. I was just saying on society.
True. And the thing is, too, about the drugs, I think, from my observation, and I'm an environmentalist, and by that I mean I really think how the environment is structured is going to have an awful lot to do with the outcome of how people behave. I really believe that. And so I think, I can't imagine if you're going around, and it's been said all the time, oh, there's drugs everywhere. How much more difficult can it be for somebody to not take alcohol and to not take drugs if they're walking through areas where people, their so-called peers, are taking drugs? How much harder can that be?
Like I say, it's how you've been brought up and everything. But basically, say a baby don't know nothing while it's born. But if he's going seeing all this, even if
environment,
if you
society.
told him it's
exactly.
wrong, but yeah, he see everybody else doing it, why not do it?
But then
That's
again, you
human
gotta
nature.
think that if you have self-control and you know what you want out of life, yeah, you seen it happening, but you're gonna make that change. You're gonna do it for yourself. You know.
What about the son? And I understand exactly what you're saying. But what about the person that, okay, more than likely you had what we would call a basic good upbringing. You may have went through some ups and downs with your family, maybe single parent family or two parent family. But when you have a child that was born, first of all, you might as well say the parent got pregnant by mistake. Then the child was born and raised in probably second, third generation of welfare, and they have no example. And in their society environment, they were not raised with the same morals and values that you have. They have no, you know, basically, like for me, I remember for years when I used to live in Bromley Heath Projects, a lot of people would make comment, you know, I would always had in my mind, not to say that there's anything wrong with living in the projects, but I always had in my mind that I was going to be outside of the projects because that's all I knew. And the mentality, the general mentality of the people there was that, you know, this own little set, once you grow up here, you're never going to leave here.
But see, it shouldn't be like that.
It shouldn't,
It shouldn't.
but-
I mean, society bases on, just like we were saying, right from wrong. Just because you grow up in a single parent family, or you're poor on welfare, whatever, you can still make that change if you know what you want to do
But-
and you're educated on the
But
different.
where does that desire for change come from? I believe it comes from the morals and the values that's instilled in you while you're a child. Now, fortunately, I had, I was blessed. My mom was on crack for like a few years, and I mean, it's not to get back to religion, but due to her personal religious experience, she just stopped right then and there. And I mean, even though she was on that, she made sure that she instilled morals and values in us, in the kids, and now we're all basically doing, you know, pretty good. But it goes back, I think, to morals and values and what's being taught through media, through our parents, through education at school, through a lot of people that we're around, examples that we have before us.
That's why I say we need a lot of leaders. We need a lot of leaders to be out there to push forth those things, you
I
know?
believe like what she's saying, people seeing all this to set higher standards for themselves and proceed on going better, but it's like society plays a big role.
If you don't have an example or that desire
You need an
there,
example, but then even if you was brought up in a good family, what you seeing outside on a regular basis still bothers you, affects you, is mentally messing with you. Even though you got goals, if you ask a little kid what's his goal, he might say I want to be a cop, but as he grow, you don't even hear his goals.
he sees, sometimes sees a cop trying to pick up something from one of the dudes that's pumping around the way. You know what I'm saying?
It's like a fight, and it's like so much of a fight, they just don't want to fight
There's
no
a
more.
struggle.
It's like,
It's a struggle to make it in society.
It's just like when I was in 5th grade, we all took DARE, drug resistance education. And it seems now for like half them kids that was in my class, DARE stands for drugs are really expensive.
It's not funny.
It's straight up. I mean, there are a lot of us. There were a lot of us in there that all of us said, "Well, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna try this. All of that's dead." But after a while, they just like, well, one time ain't gonna hurt.
This is what
But if you think about it, somewhere in your life, someone instilled a moral or a value that once you make a promise and once you say that you're not going to do something, you do that. Some of them kids probably didn't have it. One, probably verbally, and two, probably by example. They didn't have that. You're fortunate that you have that moral and value in you that once you make up your mind you're not going to do something, you're not. But a lot of them may have felt through peer pressure, through stress. They needed an outlet through you know, just like you said, one time, just to experiment. Look at Len, what's his name? Len Bias, the guy that was going to play for the Celtics. He was trying, quote, one time. And that one time, he was out.
Curiosity really hurts people.
Curiosity
Even
killed
though
the cat.
my parents always told me, never do this, this is wrong. But what's wrong? Then again, I'm young, I don't know what's wrong.
And sometimes
People,
experience is
curiosity just hurts.
That's right.
You can always tell him this is right, this is wrong,
Exactly.
but curiosity gonna eat that small person up if he ain't strong enough and really don't have you there all the time for him. He gonna go find out for himself.
You've got to. How can you ever really know generally what your parents know until you live through what your parents lived through?
That's
Now,
true.
basically
You know,
what
that's the unfortunate. Your parents try so
They
hard.
try.
If you're lucky
But
enough
for
to
some
have
reason
them
we
there,
don't-
but how can they give you what they learned by going through it? It's very hard, you know.
That's what society's telling everybody. This is okay. This is good.
Mm-hmm.
But some people, it's all different effects to certain people. Maybe it helped this person. This person just turned.
And I agree with what he said. Generally speaking, that it's a fight.
It
I
just don't
agree.
say
I mean,
fight.
but
And that's why a lot of people return to religion and say, this is our God. You got different ones. It's just a big fight, and a lot of people's giving up. It's like, if you go back in the history, this fight been going on so long, there's no point. They don't see no victory in it. There's no point in winning. There's no ending to it.
like even if you're not thinking about it, it's wearing on you. You know, as you pass people, like if you took 10 people and put them in a place where there were no drugs and people doing them all around them or trying to sell them, get some money off them, and you put 10 people in a place where they were all around them, which ones are likely to come out more doing drugs?
The person around
You
you.
know,
The ones that surrounded by that.
it wears on you. Just like if you put some food on a table, people get interested. What are you eating? You know, I mean, you tend to go towards. What I'm pointing out is hardly that this means to do something like that. I'm pointing out that these environments wear on people. They wear on them.
They do.
And
I mean,
we've
look
got
at some people that have to go through certain neighborhoods. I mean, it's not that bad in Boston, but look at some young people that have to go through certain neighborhoods where you see the commercial on TV where the guy's running from school and he's jumping the fence, and at the end the guy says, this is the one that that made it through the struggle to make it home today or something. I mean, you have to struggle basically, and I mean, in my case, as an African American male, I mean, there are already some things, you know, even in the 90s, and it's unfortunate, there are already some things in the 90s that if I walk into a particular office for an interview, by automatically the color of my skin, the texture of my hair, or whatever, I'm already perceived as being, you know, or I'm already stereotyped as a certain type of way. I mean, there are struggles for everyone, whether you're male, female, black, white, rich, poor, ex-drug addict, ex-prostitute, whatever. There are daily struggles every day. There are different struggles that you deal with to get to certain goals, but you struggle with different things every day, whether it's drugs, whether it's trying to, you know, remain celibate until you're married, or it's whether, you know, trying to raise a child that you may have had, whether it's trying to maintain a job, a good grade point average. I mean, life is really about, I mean, a lot of struggles.
And the thing about it just doesn't get easier. So it just
Doesn't.
affects everybody. It doesn't get easier. It's
Doesn't
almost
get
like we
easier. I
go
mean, it-
get by our clothes. That's how I see society plays the game on it. Everybody want name brand stuff. You don't hear no more pro champs or nothing. Everybody's out there fighting to get their name brand stuff. How they gonna get it? Even the young kids want it. Mommy, I want this. Mommy don't got it. I want to make my own money now, but I can't afford to get a job or anything. So
then they deal to
and society just keep going. Drugs, it just keeps
Dealing
going. Oh, it
drugs,
just plays the game.
fast money.
And like I think all these subjects are taken lightly. Drugs, criminals, all the crime and all that's taken so lightly that this is a normal way of living now.
Yeah, you know, that's one reason we're here talking, because through the media, by and large, you don't see any like just regular kinds of slices of life. From what I can tell, it's all about selling something or giving you an image of you know, so like you're living the life you're living is one way, and the media even making you thirsty and desirous is another way, and what's between the two? There's no bridge.
I mean, we can't always sit back and blame the media.
No.
I mean, because a lot of people, that's their first excuse. Well, why is this like it is? Oh, it's the media. Well, I admit the media does blow things
Play a
up.
large part.
They play a large part, but I mean, it's not their fault that somebody goes to the bottom. It's not their fault that they pull the trigger. I mean, even though the media is a business, I mean, like, there are a lot of things that happen in the area where I live, which is Hyde Park, but for some reason it doesn't really get to the media. I mean, like,
Why? That could bring up a whole nother subject, but why do you think?
because they places like Roxbury and Dorchester and Mattapan have all been conceived as bad areas in the past because of the redlining and things that have happened in the past, like the Boston riots. Like little sections where the riots really happen.
I think
Look
those
at the
parts-
real estate. Back,
Look at how the real, like the redlining, the redlining.
And all of a sudden now, if you look at Roxbury, like where they're putting the new police headquarters, the registry building, and all of that, if you look at all of that now, all of a sudden, the real estate value in that area where we used to live and where it was considered poor, whatever, now it's
going up.
much higher.
It really
Police
is.
headquarters are
They're
coming
about
up there.
to-
They're not going to tolerate a lot of the drugs. This summer and probably the fall before the headquarters opens, watch a lot of the dudes you see out pumping all the time and whatnot. They're not going to be there because they're coming into Roxbury and they're basically going to clear everything out. The new bad areas are going to be Hyde Park, Rosendale, probably Mattapan, because Roxbury and Dorchester is going to go back to what it used to be. It used to be a a large Jewish community where a lot of people own businesses within that community. Yep, Blue Hill Lab. I mean,
They're
all
about
of
to
them
do
got
that all
Blue Hill Lab.
over.
Some of the churches now in the black community are old synagogues. I can name at least 3 right off my head that are old synagogues. But basically, I said all that to say, you were talking about like real estate value and stuff, and what else were you saying?
I feel those places are targeted.
Redlining.
The redlining and about, oh yeah, you said the media. I know this one, and I really hope this young man is watching. There is one young man that drives around in a black station wagon with a cellular phone and his little media hookup, just driving around the streets of Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan. I could be coming home from maybe going out, around 2 o'clock when clubs and stuff close. And I see this guy all the time. Or one particular night, we were just hanging out, summertime, there was nothing else to do. And this man drives around Dorchester, Roxbury, and Mattapan, and I know he is press. I know he's a reporter. Because as soon as something happens, or if there's police go down the street, he's right after him. He's probably freelance. And I'm like, what makes him so sure? Or why does he invest all this money in this car, in this equipment, to ride around in Roxbury and Dorchester, Mattapan? It's like he's guaranteed a story every night that's going to pay for all that stuff. You know?
I mean, there were like 4 or 5 people that got shot. There was a big drug bust at the top of my street, and I mean, I'm like, well, how come
It wasn't covered?
Nope.
What was the ethnicity of those that were getting shot or participating?
Black, Hispanic, and white.
But even though you got to think of, there's a lot of prestigious people that hold good official jobs that live in the Hyde Park area. So, I mean, and all you got to know, I mean, I'm not saying no names. I don't know who lives in Hyde Park. I'm not from
I
Hyde
think it
Park.
all goes back to the voters' books. I mean, if you look at the voters' books for to Cardman Square versus Ashmore Hill, I mean, Ashmore Hill's voters' books are like this. And if you look Cardman Square, they're like that.
So then you're getting to something, talk about
participation by us making changes, not just doing talk shows like this one, not just meeting at the Village Connection, but starting to take steps as us as young people to change society and to change the mindset of young people and let them know that there is hope, whether you're struggling with drugs, whether you're struggling with trying to make it in today's society, whether you're viewed because of your race or your gender or your sexual preference or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's about now taking steps and more than just talking and just saying what we could do and what we need to do. Now it's about taking that step to start to do stuff, to change. So when our little brothers and sisters come up and our kids come up and nieces and nephews and whatnot, they don't have to go through a lot of the struggles that we go through today.
For some reason, I feel them 3 areas ain't supposed to come up, because why don't they promote the stuff that's happening positive on all those issues?
Because there's
This is what I was going to ask. Do you really want the media to be always telling about murders? Is that a good idea?
No, not at all.
I mean,
but media don't come and check out these YMCAs, all these other programs that need funding to do this. They want to check out this, put more money into busting someone else and sending them to jail.
Because there's no money in it.
Now there's jail. That's a business now, buying jails and owning prisons.
Jail is like going to the playground now. They got cable TV, weightlifting,
meals a day,
basketball. I mean, you could go to jail, come back, and be like.
I feel there's a lot of money out there if they putting it towards you, because I feel Dorchester, Mattapan, Roxbury, the further you go out of them areas, the cleaner it gets. The further you go out, they clean.
Not now. Because if you notice now, they're
not.
coming into
There
Blue
could
Hill
be
Ave and
stuff
Roxbury, and they are
happening.
straightening up because look what's coming into the area.
But you
Look who's moving out though as well. People are moving out, not only.
But it's history repeating itself.
Look at Ashmont Station and then look at Carbon Square and look at that space in the middle, Ashmont Hill. I mean, you're over there in Carbon Square, you hear cars, everything, and then you go over there to Ashmont, you hear it, and you go to Ashmont Hills, you're like, where the noise goes?
But if you go to
And it's
Ashmont
right
Station,
in the middle.
Ashmont
It's back to
Station,
Carbon Square.
Okay, Ashmont Station, but then as soon as you get to Dorchester Ave, it's quiet again.
certain parts.
Certain parts.
I just want to say something about, far as in real estate and, where we live at in our town and as Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan. First of all, like the man James said, there's a lot of Jewish people who still own a lot of the businesses or housing and different things in there. And that's what I want to say. It's going to be another form of slavery. I'm telling you that right now. Now this is what I thought about, things that I study of when I'm talking about another form of slavery. Now, if you go out in the suburbs and it's nice out there, I'm not saying that all the parts of the suburbs is nice, but there's a lot of, you like when Leo said, when you kind of move out, further you go, it starts to look nice. And, a lot of people that own these things, they see, the people who first, was living in Roxbury and Dorchester were white people. I'm not going to say because, see, we as blacks, we come from Africa and we were shipped over here to the United States to work and, and that was some kind of slavery. Now, the whites are going to come back in and their plan is they want to take over, on where they first came from. You see what I'm saying? They want to take over on where they first came from. And the people that's on poverty, the people who's on welfare, see, they're about to cut the welfare off, right? And you tell me what is going to happen to the people, right, who's living in poverty and who's on welfare? Where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? Exactly. Now, what's going to happen to those people when these different organizations starts coming back into where they first built and started something? They want you mean to tell me? Come on, they
already enslaved because drugs was always here.
Not yet.
Drugs was always here. I feel drugs are way in slavery. Drugs were always here, but drugs was never this strong. There was always had to been a way for the drugs to get in. I feel that society can't survive without drugs. I feel that's a resource of money coming in. Without them drugs, there ain't no money.
I kind of feel in a way that he's right. Because think of all the church burnings that have been happening. I mean, David Duke ran for president. I mean, and I say that because, I mean, like what, 3 or 4 years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago, excuse me, time has elapsed, he used to yell off the top of rooftops that he was a red dragon. And I mean, you're just gonna change in a year? That doesn't make any sense.
I'm just saying this. I mean, I'm just saying that there's a reason why organizations are coming in to our community, making things look nice. See,
because it has potential. It has potential, and it's right by the city. Everybody, the suburbs are coming to the city to work, and it's too much.
Aren't a lot of African Americans also building things up?
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
understand
I mean,
that.
on a big scale?
On a big
Big
scale,
time.
I'm
but
saying
there's
that
almost
I'm just saying that this is what I'm saying here. The white organization is coming back to take over something that they first started. That's
saying
all.
that in general.
That's all I'm saying in general. That's all I'm saying because you're saying
Or,
that's what they first.
or if people see a potential to make some money, they
feel that's
might
all
go
it is.
They have
towards
that-
it, right?
they
I
have
mean,
that
I don't
right.
know what's
That's all
going
I'm
on.
saying.
I'm just
But
looking
yeah,
at-
I mean, they might
I'm just
not
looking at-
necessarily say we want to take over. They might say this looks like a good
They
business
want their
deal.
stuff back. Put it that way. I'm just
Not
looking at
really.
the
I think-
characteristics of society. I'm looking at the characteristics. Now I wouldn't say this if I didn't feel though it was true.
Uh-huh.
I'm only voicing something that I see and something that I study,
Your
and that's why I'm not trying to
Yeah.
down anybody on what they believe. I'm just telling you on how I feel. You know, I'm not on what I feel about what's going on in my community. That's all I'm saying. And I'm saying that they're gonna come back, they're gonna take over, and what's gonna happen to the people that's on poverty who don't have anything? You know what I'm saying? What's gonna
drug
happen
scene
to
and all that
them?
is
My,
gonna get worse.
You know what
my
I'm saying? What's gonna happen?
interpretation is that if you think about it, a lot of people from the suburbs come to Boston City, downtown, working in the office buildings, and they're getting tired of being in traffic, going all the way back to Stoughton and Brockton or whatever, when they could live right out of the city
Exactly.
in nice houses, nice condominiums, and they just did Boston City
Exactly.
over.
It's
Boston
beautiful.
Medical Center. You start playing. You know what I'm saying?
What's gonna happen to the people on welfare though? Where they gonna go?
They're gonna be up on the side street.
Another form of slavery. Another form of slavery.
I mean,
That's all I'm
that's-
saying.
It's a point, and it's true. And like John said, we're not trying to basically get into a whole thing of racism. I mean, we know we're going to be honest. It's on
No,
the floor.
most def.
It exists.
Most
We're not
def.
saying that everyone, but our interpretation as young Black Americans and seeing these things go on, I mean, you have to really realize that it is true. I mean, right here, we have this young lady right here that's helping us. She is different. I mean, the percentage of the white population that is still really racist is probably a lot smaller than what it was, but there is still a large population of different people that do not like other races, and it's not just white against blacks.
Yeah.
If you even look at the West Indian culture, okay, first let's bring it back into black culture.
But
Somebody, you may not like me because of my complexion. You got the light skins against the dark skins. You got the ones with the good hair against the ones with supposedly the bad hair or whatever. I
The
mean,
Jamaicans against the Haitians.
yeah, you got like Jamaicans against Haitians.
And it shouldn't
you
be
got
that way.
Dominicans. You got a lot of Puerto Ricans that can't stand Dominicans. And everybody
But it's vice versa. You can't say one group is just upset at that group, but they don't like that. It's a two-way street. That there's a lot of
It is a
minority
two-way
that doesn't
street.
like Caucasian people, and there's a lot of Caucasian that don't like the same amount
It's not
presented of.
everybody,
It's not
and it's vice
everybody.
versa.
Everybody's out for
Every
themselves.
example that I named, it is vice versa.
Exactly.
But I mean, we have to get. I'm getting back to the thing. What are we going to start doing now to change these things? Doing
one-
workshops like cultural
It needs to be
awareness.
One, we gotta stop
Thank
seeing
you.
ourselves.
That's the
One, we gotta start
foundation.
seeing ourselves as black and white. We're all just different shades of brown.
There we
if
go.
you really look at it,
There we go.
Okay,
there is no black and white.
There we go.
We're all just different shades of brown. If you look at my complexion versus Leo's or mine's versus hers or his, you'll all find different shades of brown in this room. You won't find no black like this or no white like that. You'll find just different shades of brown. And it's like that throughout the whole world. I mean, they just label it as black. I mean, black or white. If you ever look at the definitions of these words, I mean,
no one in the world, even a person that's albino and very, very light, is actually
white.
white. You know, I mean,
If you look at the definition, they say white is pure, clean, and all, and
Look at black.
that
spotless.
that brings up another
Black.
subject there.
That brings
innocence,
up
and then you see
education.
black
A lot
is
of
filthy.
minorities didn't have that education. A lot of minorities wasn't making
dark,
those
filthy.
dictionaries.
Yeah.
But you gotta think of who
guilty.
did those dictionaries. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Who brought up these words? Who brought up the language? Look back all the way back in
exactly.
history. You know what I'm saying?
Who named us as black people? You know what I'm saying?
Back
Wait a
on
minute,
how
it
we
was the
resolved this.
Portuguese.
But
It
the
was
thing I was trying to get to
Negro.
before
It
that
was
she touched on and you touched on, we have to get beyond the point of keep talking about it. It's
resolve
good.
these.
It is most definitely good to be educated and understand the history behind some of the things that go on. But now we have to, as she said, education.
That's right.
We have to
That's
start
right.
educating
right.
ourselves,
That's right.
our peers.
That's right.
I mean, look at, for example, the Village Connection is a
right.
group of young people that believes in being positive. We're taking a step, and I believe that's one of the reasons why Nancy invited us here to talk about some of the things that's going on in society and our view toward the quality of life, but then also taking some steps to make our view toward the quality of life better. You know what I'm saying? As teenagers, because the age, I mean, I'm 24, and most of y'all are like, you know, age range.
What are our
probably is from
ages?
50,
Let's go around. Tanika.
16.
16.
19. You're 24.
48.
17.
What you say?
16.
16.
So the average age here is about
16.
16.
16. Well, we make a, well,
We're grandpas. We gotta combine this together.
resolving the average age. Basically, if you look at the average age that's represented here right now, we are pretty much settled in where we're going to go and what we're going to do. A few of us, I want to say we're here now. We're not going to be sidetracked, but there is always the possibility that one of us may be sidetracked to go a particular way. But at our age range right now, we're pretty much set in the way we're going to go. But I believe that education needs to start when these kids are in elementary school. When, like you said, you brought up, there's two things that y'all brought up that kind of relate. You talked about slavery and you talked about labels and whatnot. I'm the first to be convicted. I'm wearing a label right now. I love labels. There's nothing wrong with them. If you can afford them, and if it's not, I gotta have because everybody else has. That is not the case. But
Look at quality,
Leo, go
which
ahead.
will
the
last
quality,
longer.
but the labels
You know
is
what I'm
almost a
saying?
form of slavery because the guy that is over Nike, Fila, Reebok, Adidas,
Go to Tommy Hill.
Tommy Hill,
listen, wait.
we won't leave him alone.
But wait, it's even if the person owning these corporations were African American and you were buying labels, it's the same thing.
Same thing. Calvin I, I'm sure, has set in his mind that he wants everybody to buy his clothes, but it's a difference. I mean, if you sit up in the office and you know, a lot of products are geared towards the black community.
That's right.
Because in our community, there's always I would almost go as far as to say there's a crab-like struggle. You're not going to make it up if I'm not going to make it up. So we're pulling each other down, and you don't find that basically, you know, in other societies.
You said how to resolve these problems. Basically, I went down to Tennessee, but it took a crisis for everybody to bring the unity together. Why unity just coming out together? Why can't you walk over here and just talk? It took a crisis to bring people together. They wait till someone gets shot or something. Oh, that's real bad or something. And where the money going for our education? These schools are dropping. They losing all their accreditation.
And think
There's no
about
money.
tuition to go to
Tuition.
a school.
Oh.
Why should you have to pay that money just to get education when they supposedly want everyone to be educated? It's the 1990s. You should educate.
Well, I feel
yourself.
education should be
It's
free,
tough.
but everybody got to educate themselves. And the big issue now society play, there's no trust in nobody. You got to come up by yourself. You
There
can't
is no
trust your
trust.
neighbor.
How do you feel
can't
about
trust your
trust?
neighbor. There ain't no
Quan,
trust.
how do you feel about trust?
You can't trust your neighbor because you feel your neighbor going to, while you coming up, they going to bring you
mentality.
down.
Exactly.
I bring my brother up, I want him to help someone else come up. And it should
How
just
do you
keep
feel
going.
about
I
trust?
mean, I feel I can only trust my family, and they're not even some of them.
It is tough to trust. I agree. This is a lot of these things, like not talking to each other and just things going downhill all the time, are just general.
I mean, whatever happened to saying hi? People just want you to just keep going.
But if you look at that, it's environment. You go down south, they will walk up to you. What's up, man? What's up? How you doing? I'm here, and I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. We see somebody we saw once, and we know they look familiar, and we catch eyes, and what do we do?
You always judging somebody ahead of
You know what I'm
time.
saying?
One thing you're not supposed to do is judge somebody. You don't know the person, don't judge them because
And yet you have to watch out. You have to judge them to the extent that you've got to be careful. So you've got to make judgments
You
too,
make
right? You're not going to
judgments,
walk
but you don't
around
judge the
making no
person
judgments.
before you
To be
know the
careful,
person.
But okay, then that brings up another, and we keep jumping from tangent to tangent. But when is it going to get to a point where, I mean, back in the days, I remember stories where my grandmother talks about where they could just walk in the house and shut the door
I lived in
and not worry.
That's
you know,
right.
about the
We
door.
used
I
to
mean,
sit-
back in the
Leave it
projects
open.
We used to
could do
sit
that.
on the
But
stoop
I mean,
in Boston. We used to sit on the stoop and we'd go into each other's houses and the doors
Back and
weren't
forth.
locked.
And you used to live in Boston?
Yeah, I lived in that time. We'd
What part
sit
of
on-
Which
Boston?
part of Boston?
near Kenmore Square. We'd be out at night, sitting on the stoop, and we knew each other, and we could just go into each other's apartments, you know, knock and walk in. And now
That goes back
it's
to trust.
two
It's a big
locks,
trust
3
issue, and
locks,
I think
5
society
locks.
just played this
you know,
game on everybody.
It's
It's not
really.
happening. It's claimed normal now. It's like a way. It's like it's just the way you do things now. If you want to get by, it's just the way you're gonna go with it. You're gonna flow with the flow.
Because we're technological too. We're fast moving. It's technology. You know,
Microwaves, fast
we're the
food,
guinea
ATM
pigs.
cards, everything is just
But
like now.
technology. This is
Everything's
not a
about
slow,
money.
quiet
Everything's
world.
about money.
You know,
Not at
this
all.
is.
I mean, it's just like everybody wants to live, like, nobody wants to be out there. Everybody wants to be in their own little world. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, you see it like back in the day, I mean, it still happens down south. I mean, I've experienced it. Like, people whoop the other kids. I mean,
You do that up here.
They know.
if you
notice-
touch somebody
they
else's
notice-
kid up here, I mean, there will be a war started
They
in the
notice that
neighborhood.
Hit you back. The child will hit you back.
The child will
And
shoot
you know why? Because if you don't learn how to survive, you'll be sunk in a second. So the kids are learning the kids are, very hard at an early age because
on my
who's out
street-
there watching for them? You
I
know,
don't
the
feel
cars
them
are
with
going by,
discipline.
the people are all around, the drugs are, are these going to be sweet kids?
I don't feel the
Yeah,
same discipline
Now
either.
you have a lot of full-time, and there's nothing wrong. I believe all power to the mothers that are out there pulling 40, 50 hours being CEOs. But if you look at a lot of what we talked about tonight is going to go back to family values, what is taught in the home. A lot of the community outreach and stuff that we're part of and we do, it's only built upon what we're taught at home. You don't
Even
have a
when
lot
we
of
taught at
community
home?
centers that deal with 2, 3, and 4-year-olds. The 3 and 4-year-old, like I said before, does not have certain values and morals instilled in them, then they're not going to know how to trust somebody.
There's a lot of water under the bridge by the time you're 3.
I think there's
Yeah.
a lot of
By the
discipline.
time you're 6 months old, there's a lot of water under the bridge.
But I mean, but
You know,
3-year-olds, they've
somebody's
probably
not-
seen somebody murdered on TV. They've probably seen someone in person using drugs or smoking or whatever. It's,
Oh, this is
But I
another
can't even
thing.
blame the parents no more. I can't even blame them no more because they're not going to be there all the time. They got to send their kid off to
But
school.
you do have to bring up the fact of parents. I mean,
Yeah, the
you have that
parents are there.
sex. You are basically on punishment. I seen a poster saying you're on punishment for 18 years. You are responsible for that child for 18 years, no matter what. You
See, that's too
enjoy
bad
that.
though, looking at
Okay,
every
even if the
child
parent
that's
played
being
their
punished.
part.
I'm just saying
What
that's
the kid got
something that's
looked
used to kind of get young people away from
The
teenage
kids got
pregnancy.
safe parks to play in. They got good schools to go to. They surrounded by these people that live outside.
But
Nowadays,
still, you could be brought up in a family where your father is a priest, some type of a reverend, the mother's a deacon, and you still could be the biggest
preachers'
rapist.
kids, they say
no,
the words.
no, but see, I'm just saying you
It's
could be
true.
raised in the best family,
This
got
is
everything
true.
in life,
This
and you
is
could
true.
still rebel or just
That's
But it's
roll
still-
on the
it's-
street. That's just who you are, and that's just how
But it doesn't
I just
change
feel
the
the fight's
fact,
too hard.
generally speaking, if you're supervised and held by the hand and somebody watches where you are and that you're in bed on time and that you've got 3 square meals, you got a head start. Generally speaking.
I'm gonna quote one of my
Generally
favorite.
speaking. Oh,
it's something that he
absolutely.
said.
You could rebel back to that rebellion, because a lot of things go down between people when formally everything looks like it's in place, but they really are not doing nice things to each other. Maybe not physically, but they could be doing things to each other psychologically that, make them actually opposed to each other, even though everything seems to be in place.
I'm gonna quote something from Ice Cube, and he said.
Could you tell us who Ice Cube is?
He's a rapper that from the West Coast. He said he learned to throw his first punch from Bugs Bunny, picked up his first weapon at Toys R Us. You are what you've been taught.
Absolutely. And
I mean, and it's not just the parents. I mean, the parents have to also sit down and tell their kids. I mean, what you see on TV is far from reality.
And why should you have on TV girls getting sexually abused with murder
Why should they even
combined
put it
with
on
it?
there? Why they just all the money?
I flick the channels and all I see is sex and violence combined.
'Cause it sells.
Big time.
It
Big
sells.
time.
It
Big time.
Exactly. That's
Well, I
what
don't know about
sells.
that.
Will you
And
think
it's-
Cinderella
it's even-
Think of
you get
I Love
conditioned
Lucy.
to it. You get
I Love
conditioned to
Lucy
it.
was one of the first shows to break the rules. Like they showed 2 people in bed. Back in those days, if they had to show 2 people in bed, one person had to have
They were a mixed race couple.
they had to have their leg on the floor, or there had to be 2 beds, 2 twin beds
They
on
had
TV.
2 beds.
And
Now,
you
if you
notice that
think
in a lot of the old movies. There's 2 twin beds stuck together. I'm like, they're
I know,
married.
and
What's
now
up?
the soap operas have basically a porno.
bunk
I
bed.
hate to say, it looks like porno to me.
But
I
it's what sells,
Yeah,
'cause-
yeah. But I'm saying, what's going to happen where everywhere it's telling, stab, and not only unusual things like stab, and then the guy who's
mean,
been
but
stabbed still gets up for
there's
some
some
more, and then they hit him with a baseball bat, and he's down. But then, oh no, he's not down.
Video games, look at Mortal Kombat and all them things that they be going out there, the Sega Genesis and all that PlayStation.
And it's getting too
with
real.
With the 3D and all that blood smack.
This has an effect.
And it's
This
not like they're
has an
trying to
effect.
stop it. It's
Coming
trying
at you
to
all
make-
day long.
It's not like they're trying to stop it. They're trying to improve it. They trying to make high-tech weapons. They trying to make
As
big
real as
weapons.
possible. So you really think the what do you call it? Virtual reality. They're going to try to get it to the point where you actually you feel like you're going there and snapping
I
somebody's
consider myself
skull
guilty of this
spine
because
out.
just today, I was down at G Wiz playing a game called Soul's Edge, which is really looks like real people stabbing each other with swords and stuff. And I mean, it's gotten to that point. I mean, I remember back in the day, you go in the arcade and play Pac-Man or Galaga, them things where the controls were on either side. And now you look at it, it's just ridiculous.
If nobody's home or you don't have anybody that really is close with you, that cares about you, spend a lot of time having to figure out, even if you hang with people, you're still on your own, kind of, for your own.
But you just can't blame
psychological. And then for your diet, you watch this stuff, okay? All right, you're kind of lonely. You hang with people, but you don't really have someone that's tight with you and cares about you. And you see all this stuff constantly from morning till night. Now you're going around, you're feeling kind of bad. What kind of things are going to be on your mind? Like somebody trips on, somebody steps on your toe. What kind of things are going to be on your mind?
A state of depression.
True, but I mean, I go through that sometimes, seeing different things, and from my upbringing. But I got my stuff on the road.
I'm saying to you, if you get these media images, if you're a young child, you are what you're taught. So you don't watch it. You are what you're taught, and this is what you're getting constantly. And then you don't have a solid foundation. Someone watching over you and caring about you. What's going to be in your mind when you get frustrated?
I mean, you get depressed, stressed, and it just eats you up to where you have to find an alternative to take care of that. You gotta find something to resolve that situation, and people's not seeing too many alternatives where they're going to turn to.
This is another thing, that there is a lot of hopelessness in the country.
I mean, it's gotten so to the point, that show Beavis and Butthead, they had to, when that came on at 7, that used to come on at 7 o'clock every day. And I still kind of watch it. I mean, you used to sit up there and watch these two dudes blow up something every day. They'd be like, that would be cool.
Tom and Jerry.
And I mean, people sit there and they talk about that, but they don't talk about Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes. And the parents sit there and they blame it on Beavis and Butthead when they watched Tom and Jerry when they were kids.
And Tom and Jerry is almost just as violent. Have a safe landing on somebody's head.
Tom and Jerry run. You ever notice Tom and Jerry ran by the same table and vase, hitting each other with skillets?
And it was still funny. They didn't have to get into the violence. I understand what you're saying about that.
I just got back to it's a fight within a fight, and it's just so much of a fight. People just said there's no hope. It's history played this over and over. One person can't do it by themselves. They just like, why can I keep fighting and I ain't getting no help to keep proceeding on making it better? It's just so much of a fight. Might as well just give up and go with the flow.
So then
which don't make it no better. You're just joining it.
What are people really looking for?
They're looking for hope.
I think they're looking for hope.
What? Hope for what though?
Hope in general.
Hope for what?
Hope for success.
What are you looking for?
And I think they ain't got no patience.
Right now, I don't know, like going through life, to me there's no meaning, there's nothing. There's nothing there for me.
Just making it to your next birthday.
Yeah, just trying to make day by day, living day by day. That's how I go.
That's a struggle.
How many of us has been there where it seems like life has no meaning?
I've been there, done it. It's like I'm still there in a way. I'm happy every day's my birthday. As long as I'm living, every day's my birthday, because that's a gift to me.
From your experience, when did you really get settled? I mean, at what age did you really get settled? I mean, because at 24, I'm not settled, in where, exactly where I want to be. Most of my morals and values, but I mean, when did you, at what age?
Maybe just now I'm starting to settle, but I took an unusually long time.
I wouldn't say that's unusual though, because they say your 20s, you make a lot of mistakes and you begin to learn. Your 30s, your experience, and your 40s, you really know what's going on. So it's probably not unusual.
I think it's different for everybody.
I don't understand these laws that go with that, like juvenile. What's a kid's age up to now?
You're considered juvenile, depending on the state, but in general, it's like 17 to 18.
Yeah, now it's become 17. Next year it might be 16.
But then what can we do? We sat up here and we discussed a lot of subjects. Now, what can we do? We need to, those of us, I think, that are educated or getting educated constantly, because you never know enough, you never know too much, but we need to start with education. We need to start with
unity,
bringing unity and bringing hope. That fight, because you're always going to fight. No matter how nice we try to make things, you're always going to fight. But at least now we need to bring to our peers and loved ones and families and community that there is hope and to continue the fight that they're going through.
Okay.
But there's one thing we have to realize: there's always going to be a gray area. I mean, like if every day was a sunny day and then all of a sudden it got cloudy a little bit, what we dismiss it as what, evil or something?
No, but
Like if everybody said, if everybody was happy, and then everybody walked around with a smile, and then it'd be
John
corny.
said, life is not a bowl of cherries, but you know we're coming to the end here. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wind it down.
No problem.
But maybe you guys can come back sometime. We'll talk about the meaning of life. Okay, we have very little time left. I'm trying to think of something. What can you do? You have to work really hard. You have to, in my opinion, be aware that your environment, and by environment I don't mean what kind of buildings and what neighborhood or things like that. I mean structurally. If people aren't talking to each other, if you're distant to each other, if you see each other but don't acknowledge each other, if nobody cares about anybody, you know, if the system is not set up so that when people walk around you're pulling the best out of them, you're not going to get the best. That's what I mean by environment. And what else do I want to say?
That's why a lot of people seek religion.
Yeah,
that's why we believe in God. I don't know if you want to do a little something before. We believe in God because that's the highest power. It's like, so we're gonna take it. We're gonna take our power.
I got a rap group.
But we have to stop right here.
I know. I just go out and
okay.
I just go out and just
Hold on. Okay, I've really got to stop. Unfortunately, we've gone over time here. But I want to say thanks to Joshua Handley, thanks to John Dunham, thanks to James Hill, thanks to Quana, David, Leo, James, John, Jermaine, and Tanika. Yes, thank you very much. And now we hope to see you again. Look for us soon. And Andre Evans from Video Flavor, could you please hit it with the music?
It's us cosmic powwow, cosmic powwow, cosmic powwow, cosmic powwow.